What I understand from you is that startup or entrepreneurship is nothing but an attitude, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. The only challenge which the youngsters need to perhaps take note of, that you need to learn first before you earn.
In the near future, I'm predicting by 2030, 1/3 of the GDP will come from startup ecosystem. Welcome to yet another exciting episode from Startups for Breakfast. Today, we have Satish Mittal. Satish, welcome to my channel.
Thank you very much.
A very well experienced professional from the field of information technology, international expertise, what I typically call assertive affirmation through wisdom,
Thank you.
which you probably generated over a period of 3 decades and above. Thank you for joining my podcast.
Thank you, Ravi. It's so nice to be here.
I sincerely appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
So, very interesting conversation, we were having prior to this. Very, very happy to see your journey. You started working with multinational companies. You worked in international territories. You worked with marquee brands, be it telecom industry, be it social media, you name them. That's a huge experience, isn't it, Satish?
Very humbled with this, yes, Ravi.
For the benefit of my viewers, why don't we know something about yourself?
I'm a very simple guy who was born in Haryana, let's say, born from a village in Haryana, and today I'm sitting with you. I think that itself is
My God,
something.
It's too nice to hear that. Yeah,
So
thanks. Yeah.
really nice. But yes, it had been a very exciting journey. From the days when we were working on 8085 processor days,
Correct.
If you recollect those,
Correct.
when the music used to come on cassettes.
Correct.
And today we are in a journey where you have AI/ML, which is deciding many of our decisions.
Everything is streaming.
So, everything is streaming.
You don't choose anymore. You have no
Correct,
choices.
correct.
It selects everything for you.
Absolutely.
Even reads your mood.
And not only that, it's like, think of those days where we used to wait for a newspaper to come in the morning.
Correct.
Do you really do it today? No.
Correct.
So life has changed significantly.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that had been a wonderful, wonderful journey. I'm very, very, in fact, very proud of this young generation which is coming out, which is really well informed, much more informed than what we were in our ages.
What is more incredible about your journey, Satish, is you worked with some marquee brands and international markets.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about that? Which are the markets you worked and which are the marquee brands you worked? At
So
what capacity
Yeah.
and how the journey has been?
Fantastic. So let's say, I can say I have seen 3 big waves of the industry, right? And that defines my journey. So the first wave was the manufacturing itself, when, India started manufacturing telecom gears. So I started my journey in those days when AT&T, then Ericsson's and all these people came to India.
Wow.
In the
Wow.
manufacturing segment. And then when the services industry started, where the mobile and the telecom industry started, I jumped onto that I see that's very exciting.
Okay.
And had an opportunity to work with one of the biggest brands in the country, which was Reliance and Vodafone.
Correct. That's why we work together.
And
isn't it?
that's where Ravi, we
worked together.
met,
Right.
some great friends made during this journey.
Right.
Then, of course, I worked in international markets with the other side of the telecom, which is the OEMs, like Nokia, the Lucent. In fact, in those days, it was Lucent Technologies. I worked in Singapore. My territory was the entire Asia Pacific, be it Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, Korea, Japan, Australia. So that was where I opened up myself, honestly.
Okay.
Coming from a very humble background, when I met Europeans and Asians, everybody thinks differently or works differently, if I may use that word. It was an absolute great experience to learn.
While India is a very large market, I think your expertise probably what brings to the table is that you also bring in the global perspective to everything what you deal with, isn't it?
Absolutely. I still remember my first interaction with Korea. Going from India, for us, 64K was broadband. And here I was in a meeting and Korea says 100 MB is narrowband. So I said, okay, did I hear it right?
Okay.
So yes, I think the world has moved significantly, and I'm so pleased that India has really kept pace now Today we are on 4G, we are on 5G. So really what India was versus where we are very, very fortunate.
Absolutely. I mean, the tech evolution is catching up very fast in India. There could be two reasons in my assessment. You are the one who can correct that. The evolution in India in technology is happening faster primarily because we have the advantage of being the last entrant into the foray.
That's true.
That's one.
Absolutely.
Many advanced economy, they were all the first movers into the technology evolution or advancement. And the second thing is that, for them to change, I always take this example that, in a battlefield, if you are a super tanker, it'll take a lot of time and energy for you to, change direction and shoot and fire.
Correct.
And, when you are a gorilla, all it takes effort to just walk in and put a grenade and run away. So the change is faster because we had the advantage of being the last mover.
Absolutely.
When world was laughing at us that we didn't have technology advancement, but today India is progressing very
Correct.
well. From working in multinational companies and Indian corporates, I understand that you moved into a startup journey. We will come to discuss about it.
Sure.
And shift from working to entrepreneurship. How much time did you take to decide on that?
Great question, and I think it takes a lot of efforts. I think more than anything else, it's more of a mental effort. That are you ready to relearn and learn again? And that's the journey which I am going through, and I have gone.
Which is an unlearning process.
Yeah,
it's an
absolutely
unlearning process.
Yeah. Fortunately, I was groomed in at least in two companies where we were working like a startup in a big company. So Vodafone itself was one whereby Vodafone Business Services started as a very, very small unit within a big multinational domain, and we made it big. So I had at least some nuances around how do you really start and grow a business. And same thing was fortunately in Meta as well, in Facebook. The division which we started, which was connectivity division, was like a startup within a large conglomerate, and it really turned out to be a fantastic journey. So that was my brush with so-called the startup domain, and now it is a real startup.
What I understand from you is that startup or entrepreneurship is nothing but an attitude, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
It's an attitude.
It is an attitude.
It's an attitude, and you should be willing to unlearn in order to learn.
Correct. And that's why I said it's more of a mental journey than a physical journey.
Very interesting, very interesting. But Satish, also this brings to me, brings a very interesting perspective to the table, right? Transitioning from being, an employee or working for an organization into entrepreneurship. If we look at the current lot of youngsters, they are school dropouts, college dropouts. They come out with a big vision of becoming an entrepreneur or a startup. What's your take on that?
Honestly, Ravi, I think there is nothing wrong in that. It's great, and we need more of that. The only challenge which the youngsters need to perhaps take note of, that you need to learn first before you earn.
Very valid point. Learn first before you
earn, because many of these youngsters, they try to earn first, right? And the fundamentals are not set, and very soon you find yourself at a crossroad that, hey, what happened? I burned somebody else's money.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That may not go very well.
Correct.
Ultimately.
Correct.
So that's why you need a bit more maturity to make sure that you are able to learn the journey, set the fundamentals right.
That's what I keep claiming, right?
Yeah.
Assertive affirmation comes out of experience, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Absolutely. And I think that's where perhaps a mix of an experience as well as the energy of a young Brad is required to really grow and scale an enterprise.
Very interesting evolution about entrepreneurship in India, Satish. You made a very valid point. You got to earn it before. So for that, experience matters quite a lot. Let me give you a small statistics. India apparently have more than 170,000 plus startups. As per the Startup India statistics as on April 2024.
Okay.
I haven't checked it after that because the idea behind Startup for Breakfast platform itself is so that, every day morning in breakfast, I want to hear more and more startup success stories. Because entrepreneurship is one thing which is going to rule this country. And startup ecosystem will contribute 1/3 of the GDP in the near future. I'm predicting by 2030, 1/3 of the GDP will come from startup ecosystem. And we also have close to about 140 odd unicorns from India. Globally, there are 1,000. More than 14% is from India. That itself is a good news.
Yeah, it's a great news.
But what I also feel, I would want your opinion is, one can have an idea, but they don't follow it through an execution. Even if they do an execution, they don't follow it through go-to-market strategy. Even if they achieve the GTM, they don't do an effective branding. And even if they have all the component, they don't know how to raise funds. And the final take is, they don't know which technology to adapt. Now, startup ecosystem is not necessarily need to be only driven through technology, but technology is a major driver
That's
for
correct.
any business.
That's correct.
So from your background of being in the forefront of technology, you have seen all sort of evolution. You're mentioning about, we saw the cassette recorder play to multiple stuff. And I still remember, I used to carry a 40 MB storage device in my pocket. I used to feel very good about that.
That's right.
Taking a backup and
That's right.
today your one TB comes in a nano drive,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So what is your take on the technology adaptation for startups in India?
So one, obviously, I think tech is no more an afterthought.
Okay.
It has to be ingredient into the entire business strategy, and that's precisely what we did.
Correct.
That hey, you can't decide that okay, I will handle it once I scale.
Correct.
Then it is too late.
Correct.
Right? So that is one take on tech, that you have to really build it as part of your portfolio, as part of your.
To take off, you need a technology. Obviously.
Absolutely. So that's number one. Number two, you anyway need the technology for business efficiency. Gone are the days when you have to move the files from one desk to another desk.
Absolutely.
Right. So we are in a digital age now, whereby everything moves around on the tech. So that's why you need a tech anyway for business efficiency. And third, ultimately, you have to understand your customers. If they are using tech and you are not using tech, then you are already behind it.
There's a mismatch.
That is a mismatch. Today, even thanks to all the UPI revolution in the country, today even a small rediwala and a rickshawala actually accepts the money through UPI.
And we are the biggest economy in the globe. It's just a digital transaction.
Digital transactions. And if your business does not support it, then customers will see you, hey, what the hell you are doing, right? Even if you are dealing with some stuff which need not to be a digitally enabled stuff.
Interesting point. My follow-through question for that is, do we have enough system support in this country to enable the startup to choose the right platform as a technology?
I would say yes. Simply because one, you know it, Ravi, I think we are the IT powerhouse of the world. So there is no dearth of great technologists in the country. It's a question of just channelizing that energy to the right direction, right? And can we then either create our own or we adopt some of these which are already available. Just like again, we charge up, we adopted mobile first and cloud first strategy. We need not to build our own servers. Gone are those days, right? Cloud is well adopted as a technology. I know 10 years back when it all started, people had fears in their mind, but no more. Right? And mobile is today, none of my people in the let's say field carry laptops.
Okay.
They do their entire business on phone because we adopted this as mobile first strategy.
One of the another interesting statistics suggests that most of the startup in India specifically, and it's the same globally as well, they suffer quite a lot on account of cloud adaptability. The simple reason is the cost of data which need to be driven through cloud, and those cloud doesn't stay in India. They're somewhere outside, controlled by 5 tech giants of the globe.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? How a startup should be careful about what data they are actually adapting through cloud and which data they need to have on-prem?
I think there is a fairly established rules by the government as well around data privacy and what data which can go outside the country and what data which needs to remain within the source of the country. So that is a fairly simple way to look at it, that whatever is to be kept here, to be kept here. Rest, you can definitely go on cloud. That's number one. Number two, you rightly made a statement that yes, generally this is by 5 big tech giants. But the good part is majority of them are setting up their own data centers in the country as well, because they understand the giant power of India. We are generating huge amount of data. We are perhaps the biggest users of Reels and YouTubes in the world. So that data can't even travel across. It has to someday has to come in the country. So these people are setting up their centers in the country.
Yeah,
So
that's also quite sad, isn't it? When we talk about digital disruption, and in one side that young minds are finding ways to become an entrepreneur, ways to become a startup. On the other side, definitely younger minds, below the age of even 18 or 16, especially in the rural India, they're spending too much of their time and wasting their time watching reels and creating reels, and that's another sort of a very disruptive digital interruption which is happening in our lives. We'll cover that subsequently. I feel very sorry about that. There are some countries in the globe which controls even that. They ensure their youngsters doesn't fall prey to all this kind of entertaining channels. Now, coming back to our question of cloud adaptivity still seems to be quite an expensive proposition for many startups. From your expertise and experience, what are the few things one should be aware of before they sign up for cloud?
So I think it's fairly simple that when you are starting, cloud is really pay as you go, and that makes it very adaptable to a startup environment. But once you scale, that is the time when you need to look at that, hey, should I really host it myself or should I go in a hybrid model? But initially, if you don't set up through the cloud and you set up having your own machines, can be very expensive. And that can break your balance sheet itself as a startup.
Very interesting, Satish. Now, we are going to talk more about your journey, your startup venture, your ideas, and your words of wisdom for young minds, those who are into startup ecosystem. Wait for the next episode. Thank you, Satish. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ravi. So if you are able to apply AI, ML and the technologies like this to the business outcome which affects the general life, that is a great news. That is how perhaps we can do what ChargeUp can be. And we created this ethos, which is driver first. Can we bring every decision around the driver's life?